Really excited today to be joined by a couple of longtime members of the Winnipeg media, and Tim Campbell and Brian Munz, to chat about some of the Moose memories from over the seasons. And guys, I just want to start things out by, rolling through kind of your first game, or maybe even first experience in covering the Moose. And Tim, we'll start with you.
Well, it's a long time ago, 1996, and as most will remember, it was kind of a sad time in Winnipeg because the Jets had left and decamped for Phoenix, and the Moose came in to take their place. I mean, it wasn't a true replacement, but it was the best level of hockey we had in Winnipeg, and some people were never going to like it, and others just wanted to watch hockey because hockey fans are great here. So there's a lot of kind of fly by the seat of their pants moments, I think, in that first season. The team was kind of a hodgepodge of collection of older players and maybe some looking for a new break, and it struggled all season long, eventually didn't make the playoffs, but there are a lot of interesting and fun storylines now that we look back at it all those years ago.
Munzie, obviously you coming in a little bit later, what were your first impressions coming in?
Well, first impressions for me were from a visitor's standpoint, because the Edmonton Roadrunners in the lockout, I was calling their games and they weren't very good. And the Manitoba Moose had a very good team during the lockout. Randy Carlyle was the head coach. I remember coming to visit with him as the opposition coach in every pregame show we did, wanting his free television. And then 2 years later to be the voice of the team, and just to see the relationship they had with Vancouver and all the young future Canucks was special. And to be in this building, the excitement, Calder Cup obviously in 2009 was one of the great memories, I think, for everybody that are hockey fans in Winnipeg. So a lot of great memories with this team for sure.
I think once the momentum kind of got going, the shift to the AHL was probably a good thing because it was a better connection to the NHL through the Vancouver Canucks. And then right after that was when this beautiful facility here downtown kind of got its legs. The True North Group with Mark Chipman, the unveiling of the new arena, and then its building, and then the team's move here during Randy Carlisle's lockout season here in November. That was a pretty big deal. And so building incrementally, I think over time, people learn to really kind of enjoy and embrace the Moose a lot more, certainly a lot more than in the first couple of seasons, I would say.
And Tim, you think of the rivalries, Manitoba Moose AHL days, the Grand Rapids Griffins, the Syracuse Crunch, the Rochester Americans, the Hershey Bears. You only see those clubs out east a few times, but it was like they played each other all the time. They didn't like each other both on and off the ice, and that added for a lot of fun.
Well, for sure. And what makes good rivalries, right? Playoff series. Right. And Manitoba had playoff series against all those teams you mentioned, especially Grand Rapids, but also I remember a series against Syracuse when Alain Vigneault was the coach here, and against Syracuse and Rochester and Grand Rapids. Those were, and then Hershey, of course, in the 2009 Calder Cup final. But those were the important rivalries. But again, rivalries sort of making things emotional, giving fans a reason to attach to the team and get invested in hockey in Winnipeg.
Are there players that throughout the years you've really kept your eye on and seen where they've gone in their careers?
Well, I think for me, it's interesting now that we're into year 9 of the Jets, because there's not a lot of the Moose that are still playing anymore. With the Vancouver affiliation, like Corey Schneider's still in the league right now, Michael Grabner's still in the league right now. That's it. Like, that I think of from when I was calling games at the end anyway. Time flies for these guys. A lot of the guys are still playing overseas and still continuing their career. I think again at the 09, I saw Jason Krog when we were in Vancouver. It seems like every time we go out there, we catch up for lunch. And you mentioned Eddie Lack. He might be one of the more entertaining goaltenders and people that we saw come through here. So it is all about the people. And then I guess last but not least is the training staff that was with the Moose, and they're just still here with the Jets right now. You spend a lot of time and you see how hard those guys work.
I'm glad you mentioned Jason Jaffrey. I hope he'll forgive me for leaving him off my list, because the point you make is great. It really has been, the long ride has been about the people. And to me, Jason was always one of those heart and soul guys. And he did get a short opportunity with the Jets, which I always thought was kind of cool. And into these NHL years, one of the cool things for me, Daniel, has been you run into people like Brian's been saying, whether they're still playing or not. I think of people like Alain Vigneault and Scott Arniel for sure. We run across those folks, in the course of NHL travels regularly, and to just listen to them and if you know them a little bit, to understand how impressed in how much of a good thing it was when, you know, whether they spent a short time here or a long time here, you know, what good memories and good vibes they've always had from being a part of the Manitoba Moose in the past. That's one thing that sticks with me whenever I see Coach Vigneault. You know, he's always quick to say hello, and he's always looking for Mark Chipman or Zinger or whoever. I mean, he had an outstanding time here, even though his time here was short. And I think you could say that about a lot of good people connected with the Moose.
The other one would obviously be the banner that's hanging up in the building already, and that's Mike Keane. Like, I think of the one thing that stands out for me, guys, and because we see him all the time now, he's just Keener in town. Like, he's just Mike, he's a friend. But I'll never forget when I got the job as the voice of the Moose, coming in and thinking, here's the 3-time Stanley Cup champion. This guy's a legend in this city. I have no idea what this is going to be like. And then here we are over a decade later, and he's a guy you can pick up the phone and call about anything all the time.
Well, that's a perfect segue, because joining Mike Keane in the rafters is Jimmy Royce. So to wrap things up here, gentlemen, just get your thoughts on what Jimmy Roy has meant to this organization and the city.
Yeah, I hope he'll forgive me for saying so, and maybe the fans will forgive me for saying what a pain in the butt he was, especially in the early days. And I don't mean that on a personal level. Jimmy was always helpful and pleasant and easy to deal with, but I can't think of a player that players in the IHL and AHL could not stand to play against more than Jimmy. He was involved, he was always sticking his nose in where it didn't belong in a game, and stood up for his teammates. You know, the consummate team guy. So, you know, to me, a well-deserved honor that his number will be going up in this arena.
Jimmy Roy, for me, whether you're walking into the rink or a back alley, he's the guy you want with you.
Okay.
That's it. It's simple. It's really easy.
He is your prototypical teammate, and he would do anything to win. And even when you see, when he's here for development camp, he's coaching against Mike in the intra-squad games. These guys want to win this game. Like, there's no fooling around between the coaching staff. So he is the true competitor, and obviously what he did both on and off the ice and continues to do for this organization right now, very deserving of the honor for sure.
Well, Tim, Brian, it's been a pleasure to have you on to chat some Moose memories, and thanks a lot for joining me today.
Our pleasure.